blinding snow squalls and freezing rain. It's almost wintertime, and everything that comes with winter in our area will soon be here.
Use a little bit of common sense. Courtesy goes a long way.
Snow tires are ideal because it is snow conditions.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Tom Atkins. Welcome to the 2025 Winter Weather Special. You know, Craig, last year we had some record-setting snowfalls Thanksgiving weekend.
I remember it well.
Yeah, we all do. We spent a little time here. What can we expect this year? We'll have that for you later in the show.
And I'm meteorologist Craig Flint. Thanks for being here. You know, as Erie's only team of certified meteorologists, our goal is to get you ready for all kinds of winter weather. So we're going to do that. Plus, take a look at how you can stay healthy, some tips and tricks, not only for you, but for your car as well.
I'm meteorologist Jacob Matthews. We will also take a look back at last year's Black Friday snowstorm and compare it to snowstorms from previous years that hit our area.
It's the Winter Weather Special from your Weather Authority.
Alrighty, let's do it. We're going to start by taking a look back to just 1 year ago, the Black Friday storm that carried right through the holiday weekend.
Can't forget that one. Here's meteorologist Jacob Matthews.
Every winter, people expect lake effect snow to happen right here in Erie, much like how it happened just last year. Last Black Friday, we reached 22.6 inches of snowfall. And it's becoming a little more common for snowfall to reach at least 20 inches here in Erie this century compared to last century. At the Erie International Airport, there were 3 cases where snowfall reached at least 20 inches, but there was only 1 case where snowfall reached 20 inches just this past century. So, of course, heavy snow is becoming a little more common as lake water temperatures become a little warmer. Now let's go back to the top snowiest day, 22.6 inches in Erie. That was recorded at the Erie International Airport this past Black Friday. At that time, there was a big difference, a big temperature difference compared to the lake water temperature and the inland temperature. I believe it was about 30 degrees. Lake Erie was in the mid-50s. The inland temperatures dropped down to the mid-20s early Friday morning. And that just led to a lot of instability. And with that instability, it was easy for heavy snow to really form. And we also had winds favorable for Erie County on that day, west-southwesterly. With that kind of wind, it catches enough moisture from Lake Erie to let the snow fall into Erie as well as Chautauqua County. And if it becomes a little more westerly, most of that snow could actually fall into Crawford County as well as Warren County. And that was the case throughout Black Friday. But it wasn't just Black Friday, it also lasted into November 30th, the following Saturday, of course. The heavy snow in Erie started at about 5:55 a.m. We already had a southwesterly breeze, turning west-southwesterly a little later, and gusts up to over 20 miles per hour. And the heavy snow ended November 30th at about 10:55 a.m. It was still quite breezy, gusts over 20 miles per hour, coming in from the south-southwest. So that tells us that conditions weren't exactly as favorable for lake effect snow at that time. Now, as we talk about the snowstorm from last Black Friday, yes, Erie did get over 22 inches of snow and not quite 23 inches, but Northeast was a much harder hit area. I'm here with Nick Mobilia, and he remembers the storm very well. So what can you tell us about the Black Friday storm?
Well, Jake, I'll tell you, we woke up in the morning and you looked outside and I said, yeah, it's going to be a long day. So we went down, I was going to come down here. And we opened the garage door and the snow was that deep. There were places that was over 5 feet in drifts, and it was just a very difficult snow to push because it was wet and it just kept coming and with a lot of it. And you just get to a point, where do you push it after a while? You can only push it so far, then you got to start over.
Yeah.
And once you got done with the heavy stuff, you could do it with the plow. But then we have these walls of snow all over the place that you can't.
But Mobilia remembers a more impressive storm, one that hit when he was just a kid.
I remember back when we were kids, we went to Grandma's house for Thanksgiving, which was right across the street before it was a 4-lane, and Dad carried the 3 of us kids home one at a time. He walked through 3 foot of snow. So that was back in the early 60s when that happened, maybe in the 50s yet.
Thanks a lot, Jacob. Speaking of historic storms, about 8 years ago at Christmas, right?
Yeah, I remember that one. I was actually working in upstate New York, and I distinctly remember watching the radar out here and just in awe of these storms that just seem to hit on holidays.
That's right. We had Christmas 2017, Black Friday last year, and who can forget, even if you weren't there, you've heard about it, the granddaddy, the Thanksgiving snowstorm of 1956. All the stories, Craig, that come along with that. The National Guard being deployed, stranded motorists getting airlifted food from National Guard helicopters, as well as ladies going into labor and being transported to the hospital to have their babies.
It's crazy. I wasn't even an apple in my father's eye in 1956. All right, coming up, you know, with all this snow, you have to move and manage it. And with that comes health risks. We're going to take a look at some of those and also some tips for your car next.
Welcome back to the show. You know, if you've lived here for any amount of time, a lot to get through an Erie winter, including your car, your tires, things like that, and your health as far as removing the snow that falls and staying warm in the cold. Craig Flint has more.
Tom, I'm here at UPMC Hammett, and the last place you want to end up is here in the winter. It's already trying enough, isn't it? We've got to shovel snow. You got to be mindful of the icy sidewalks, slip and falls. So we got to take care of ourselves. And to help with that and to find out some tips, we caught up with a physician here at UPMC Hammett. Dr. Kristen Juhas works as an emergency medicine physician at Hammett and has seen her fair share of medical issues as they relate to the winter weather.
I would say there probably is a slight increased frequency of heart-related conditions or people presenting for musculoskeletal injuries related to shoveling, snow blowing, any of those activities outside.
Ah yes, it's back. Already. Even as recently as a week ago, Erie has already had a go-around with winter weather. As we head until later this afternoon and into this evening, it becomes heavy. And tonight, this is only the beginning. We will find out more from Tom Atkins what the winter will have in store later. But one thing is for sure, there's a long way to go till spring. Okay, snowblower check, shovel, check, snow brush, check, even got the rock salt ready to go for another winter here in Erie, PA. So as we get our equipment ready, we also have to get you ready. Shoveling snow can add extra stress to not only your body as a whole, but to your heart as well, especially if it's heavy, wet snow. It's known as heart attack snow. And it's important to know the signs.
While shoveling, and even perhaps prior to, awareness of if with exertion somebody is developing a sign of chest heaviness or having shortness of breath with exertion. And then during the actual act of shoveling or another exertional activity, if there is increased sweating, if there's a lightheaded sensation, and if again, that heaviness sensation in the chest is starting to develop. Those are some of the major signs that we would encourage somebody to come to the emergency department to seek a further workup.
Dr. Juhas also notes an increase in back injuries, shoulder pains, and hamstring strains during the winter, all of which can be a result of shoveling snow. Another key factor when it comes to taking care of yourself in the winter, hydration.
When we're out in sunshine and maybe on a beach and it's a warm day, we're sweating, we think about losing those fluids. But what happens in the winter, if we are appropriately bundled in gear, you're trying to trap that heat in there, which means you could be sweating and losing that moisture as well. And so it is as equally important on these extremes of seasons to remain hydrated and make sure that the water content is adequate.
And then there's hypothermia and frostbite.
Frostbite, you're going to have these sort of sensory and skin changes start to occur. And actually, if it is bad enough and it's no longer to a blistered form, it can actually get into the deeper tissues and really cause some sensory loss and be damaging longer term. So again, would encourage somebody to seek help before it becomes even a blistering issue. As far as hypothermia, though, that with the whole core body temperature dynamic being involved, you can start to see people becoming altered, not recognizing that they need additional coverage on, and even to the point of not even being very responsive.
Great advice. Important to listen to your body. You know, not only do you have to take care of your health during cold weather, but also the health of your car. And make sure that's in good working order. For more, here's Deanna Poole.
Have your car checked before bad weather arrives. Make sure your tires have plenty of tread, check that battery, check your windshield wiper blades, make sure that they're ready to remove snow and ice so you can see. And remember to obey all of the speed limit signs, because the faster you go, the less control you have over your vehicle if you have to react to skidding and sliding.
Linda Lambert from AAA says that the top reasons people request roadside assistance include flat tires, dead batteries, or lockouts. Of the millions of people that AAA helped last year, most of the car troubles were battery related. She says that it's imperative to check your battery, especially if it's more than 3 years old.
When preparing your vehicle for winter, many people know to at least update their front two tires. But one mechanic tells us that there are additional measures we can take to stay prepared.
People like to just put new good tires on the front of their vehicle if they're front wheel drive and sometimes all wheel drive, but that's not recommended. It should be new all four, because even though you do have good traction in the front for going and stopping, your back does not, so you could slide around a lot. So definitely 4 tires is important.
In addition to getting routine maintenance on your car, Suheki suggests having an emergency kit stocked with items such as flares, jumper cables, and even a cozy blanket.
Thanks a lot, guys, for all the information on staying safe this winter weather season.
But what are some of the things you do to prepare for the winter season?
I remind myself to keep some distance between the car in front of me. Just remember that I haven't driven in the snow yet that year, so drive slow, maybe keep it under 30, see how my tires do.
So the first thing I do is I always make sure I have my snow brush in my car. Then I check my car and make sure everything is good to go. Oil's changed, car's brushed off all the way, brakes are good. And then lastly, you gotta stock up on salt.
Typically in my car, I make sure that we have blankets, as well as any time that I'm traveling, I make sure that I have a coat as well as my kids have coats, or maybe even some extra warm clothes in the car.
I just drive with caution, and even if I can see the road, know that it still might be slippery, so drive slow and be aware of my surroundings.
Stay with us. Tom Atkins will give a look at the 2025 winter forecast right after the break.
Welcome back to the show. One of the most historic and devastating weather events of the 20th century happened 50 years ago, and that was the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Sean Lafferty, our main anchor, joins us. He's done a lot of research and reporting on this.
Of course, maybe most famously chronicled, No Maybe About It, by Gordon Lightfoot's song, The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. November 10th, 1975. The Edmund Fitzgerald famously sank 729-foot ship. You look back at this map that you've put together, and you can see they're getting 35-foot waves there, according to other ships that were on the lake. Winds that were over hurricane strength. If they get that 17 miles behind Whitefish Point, they get protection from all of that. They get enough protection. Of course, it never happens.
Yeah, like Gordon Lightfoot sang, if they only made Whitefish Bay.
Right.
But for us, meteorologically speaking, it's called a freshwater hurricane because it had hurricane strength winds, but it wasn't over a saltwater like most hurricanes are, the Atlantic or the Caribbean or the Gulf. It was over Lake Superior. So the winds were over 70, freshwater hurricane.
Yeah, we talked about where the Fitzgerald was. Right behind the Fitzgerald was another freighter, the Arthur Anderson. The captain of the Arthur Anderson said that he estimated the waves at maybe 35 feet, but he also said that wind gusts may have approached 100 miles an hour. Of course, the Edmund Fitzgerald taking 29 men to the bottom of Lake Superior.
Great research. Thanks so much, buddy.
No problem.
We got to go on and give you that all-important winter forecast. Well, here we go, folks. Here's our winter weather outlook for the 2025-26 winter. there's a lot of factors that come into play. Some are called teleconnections or oscillations. I'll get to that in a minute. La Nina, you probably have heard about. It's difficult to predict, but we'll explain it as best as possible. A couple more oscillations are the Arctic and the North America. Let me try to break these down for you. First of all, as you take a look at a weak La Nina, that is similar to last year, where Erie had 110 inches of snow. So we're in the same kind of phase for that oscillation, which actually starts with the cooling of the Pacific waters. What it does is it orients the jet stream, the great separator of cold and warm air, and allows it to bring cold air out of Canada down into the north-central United States. Now, on the other side of the jet stream and the other side of the coin, mild and warm air is bucking up against it in the eastern half. So we're kind of caught in the squeeze play there. If they come together the right way, we can get a lot of snow. If this extends, of course, down across the Great Lakes, where it can develop lake effect snow. But like we were saying, weak La Nina winters can go either way. They can be very snowy, like 2000, 2001. Who can forget 2017, 2018, which is the snowiest winter on record? And there's last year, again, almost 110 inches of snow. But again, it can also go into a more mild pattern. 22, 23 was weak La Nina, 52 inches. And 205, 206, 82.9 inches. So it's a bit of a condi what it will take for that to activate. Now, as far as these other phases of these two other teleconnections, North American oscillation, Arctic oscillation, when they are in the positive phases, that jet stream lifts and we stay warm. When they go into a negative, which we think the winter's going to start out with these negative phases, it lowers that jet stream and allows that Canadian air to come down over the lakes and give us more snow. So as we take a look at last year, it was the snowiest since 2017 and 18. It was overall colder than normal temperature-wise. December was the only month that was above normal by a little bit, but January and February were colder than normal. Well, what about this coming year? We think near to below average temperatures with that colder start, December and January, and maybe a milder end in February and March. So as we look at the situation as a whole, average snowfall amounts are heaviest in the snow belt south of 90, 135 to 250 inches on average. Erie's average in the city is 104. So here is our forecast. We think the snow belt's going to go 145 to 175 inches. That's places like Edinburgh and Corey and French Creek, New York. We think Erie is going to overachieve, as will most places. 98 to 118 is what I'm forecasting for this year. Kind of the same range for Jamestown. Meadville normally gets 75. We'll go 80 to 90 there. And Warren normally gets 66 to 69 inches. We'll go 65 to 75 inches there. So again, to recap, colder than normal overall, above average snowfall overall. And we will see what happens as we go through the next several months. That's our best guess for now. We're going to go back to a winter event from 8 years ago. I like to call it the Great Christmas Snow Job of 2017. Remember that? When our snow measurers at the airport got these great totals, and then people took a look at them in the government and said, maybe they're not real. Whenever you get something that big that could break a record, they form a committee. How unusual. And you've got 5 different entities here that want to weigh in and look at that data and see if it's true. The only one that's in snowbelt, lake effect snow country in that committee was the National Weather Service in Cleveland. Guess what the vote was? 4-1 against our snow measurers at the airport. Now, this is what gets me. The original 24-hour total got reduced by 18 inches. I mean, you might miss it by 3/4 of an inch or an inch, but you don't miss it by that much. And then that led to the monthly total for December to being shrunk 27 inches. And even they couldn't let alone the seasonal total for that winter. They shrunk that, so it went down 32 inches overall. So as far as cities with the most snow ever, we're in 4th place. But if they used the total, which was 198.5, we would have been in 2nd place, just shy of Buffalo, New York. So that's the Christmas story I have for you here as we go into the holidays.
Alrighty, that was a great look back, Tom. You know, it's always fascinating to really kind of understand how much we have to look in the past to try and figure out what's going to happen down the road. It's a big part of forecasting.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, if you don't look back at the future, you're doomed to repeat, in our cases, a bad forecast, right?
Yeah, exactly. So lots of great information in there. 1950s, that was really interesting to me because obviously I wasn't around.
Neither was I, but we've got some good video and some good information on it.
Yeah, been a great show. Looking back, you know, it's important, like I was saying, make sure you're taking care of yourself this winter. And not only you, make sure you listen to your body, but, you know, your home, your car. Make sure those smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors are up to snuff. And you know, even the sidewalks out your front door, they could be a little icy. Don't want you slipping and falling.
That's right, because then they bring the lawyers in. Yes. That can be a problem. We want to thank you guys for watching our show. We always love having you here. And of course, we look forward to being with you in the spring. So thanks to Jacob Matthews for his segment, my buddy here, Craig Flint. And we'll see you, as Mike Fenner would say, on down the line.
That's right. Take care.